Hello and welcome to this episode of the Sticky Note Marketing Show. I am your host, Mary Czarnecki, and today I'm thrilled to be able to introduce you to Gayle Goodman Lynch. So Gayle is our guest expert today, and she is a serial entrepreneur. She's also a business life coach. We're going to dig into exactly what that means in just a second, and certified by Business Made Simple. She also has her own podcast where she's the host called Choice Wisdom. So thank you, Gayle, so much for joining us here on the Sticky Note Marketing Show.
Thank you, Mary, for having me on. I'm excited. I interviewed you on my podcast and it's going to be coming out soon. And now it's exciting to be on yours.
I love it. I can't wait to hear all of the amazing choice wisdom you're going to be bringing over here.
Certainly try.
Let's start with the promise I made, folks, which is to help them understand exactly what you mean and what you do as a business life coach. Can you help those who may be not familiar with you, meeting you for the first time, understand a little bit more about what you do?
Absolutely. So I call myself a business life coach because I didn't want to be a business coach and I didn't want to be a life coach. I'm really both. And that's because my goal is to help other business owners earn more money and make more money and while achieving greater peace. And how I do that is I am a Business Made Simple certified coach. So I do have systems and processes that I have learned through that process that help people get out of their own way with the business and kind of get out of the business too, right? Because you start a business and you get all excited about it. And then at some point you realize it owns you instead of you owning it. And that's the point where everybody goes, oh gosh, I don't know what I got myself into. And you want to quit the worst job you've ever had, which is owning your business, and you can't because you own the business. So I do try to get people out of that mode and back into working on their business rather than in it. And for probably the last decade, I have spent a tremendous amount of time reading books. I've read more than probably 200 books on mind, body, spirit principles. I've dealt with many different modalities. I've done a lot of personal healing work. So through that journey, I've realized that a lot of the problems that we see in our businesses show up because there are some problems within us that we need to take a look at, examine, and heal from. So that's why I call myself the business life coach.
I love that. And I think that's such a valuable thing that you bring to your clients. Just knowing you from outside of our interview, even today, you have so much knowledge of different modalities and different tools in your toolkit that you're able to bring out and put into recommendations customized for individuals. So.
Yeah. And it's amazing how all these different modalities can just be like things that you have in your toolkit, like you say, that can help you just manage life. Because even with as much personal work as I've done and a lot of healing work that I've done, I have days where I'm like, wow, I need just about every tool in my toolkit today because life happens and it's just all a matter of trying to figure out a way to enjoy it.
Exactly. And I think I want to dig in a little bit to that part of what you do is really helping people maybe get out of the business or out of the trap of creating a business that they aren't really in love with or aren't necessarily meeting their goals. So, talk to me a little bit about what you've been seeing in terms of where people are getting stuck, right? That trap that people are falling into of, oh gosh, I've created something now, but it's not exactly what I wanted to do. Like, how do you help people with that? And where are people getting stuck with that?
I think a lot of people, and because your audience is primarily for marketing folks, right? And of course, I've been a marketing person, marketing communications for more than 27 years at this point. And I think the biggest challenge all of us marketing people have is that we have a lot of cool skills that other people don't have. And we're also, when you're in a corporate environment, the first people to get fired when things go wrong, right? How many people do we know that went out on their own to start consulting because they lost their job? And a lot of people, so I call that the origin story, right? If you ask anybody who's been in business forever, it's okay, so what's your origin story? Oh, yeah, I got laid off from my corporate gig and I hung out a shingle and I never looked back. And that's actually my origin story. Along the way, though, we spend a lot of time focusing on the skills that we have rather than thinking about our business as a business, right? So it's almost like we create jobs for ourselves. It's like I own a job and not a company. And when you can make that shift from I'm just a solo contributor doing my thing and doing things in among the skill set that I've always had to I now own a business, then you can look at it a completely different way. And I like to ask people very, very early on in my coaching, it's like, what is your primary aim in life? That's the big question you need to answer. It's okay, so when you're 50, 60, 70 years old, what do you want to be doing? When your kids grow up and go to college, are you and your husband or your wife planning on traveling a lot? Well, if you want to do that, then you need to have a business that supports that, that can run without you. If you're the only one doing it, then you're going to be in Rome wanting to go to the Vatican and see all these amazing things, but then you're going to be up at 2 a.m. answering emails and trying to get your work done while you're doing that. So that's really the way to find better peace, is to really frame your business as a business and not as a job.
I think that's such a good point too, because you and I have both worked with both very large organizations as well as individual solopreneurs. And I've always been shocked when people tell me, oh, I did this because I could, or everyone else said that this was the model to follow. Or recently I spoke to someone that I used to coach with, and she had originally started an Amazon FBA store because her thinking was, I don't want to work with clients. I don't really, she's very introverted. She doesn't like being with people. So she said, oh, I'll just sell things to names on an e-commerce site. But the funny thing that we ended up chatting about was she's interact with people more now than if I just had 10 private clients, because I have to deal with customer service, I have to deal with delivery issues, I have to deal with my team and fulfillment, all these things. So what are some of the ways that you help people get out of that can feel so hard, that okay, I have to not only design the right business, but then I have to make that business successful? How do you help people make sure that it doesn't all just feel so hard?
Yeah, the reason things feel hard is because we actually start really framing everything that's coming at us from the perception of what are other people going to think. And I think one of the biggest pieces of advice in a lot of the coaching that I do is to help people stop measuring themselves by other people's expectations. And you talked about that just a minute ago. It's, oh, this is the way everybody does it. Just because everybody does it does not mean that's the way you do it. Because you are a unique and beautiful divine soul having a human experience. You get to do things your own way. Now, I amend that with, okay, I'm a Business Made Simple certified coach, right? There's a lot of really great things in the Business Made Simple program that are in the toolkit that are good suggestions for just making your life simpler. And that's more like the tactical level stuff, right? If you can clear out all the chaos, then you can be creative. And that's what I try to coach people into. And I try to draw that out of them and help them see it, is that they are a creative person running a business that has a unique value to it. And that's where you need to focus your effort, not whether or not you finished a spreadsheet when you were pulling things out of your QuickBooks. And that's the part that makes me want to just cry, because I hate finance and I hate accounting. So those are the kinds of things that you should automate, offload, do not abdicate, you delegate. You need to stay involved, but don't do it yourself. And that's probably the biggest thing that I do, is help people figure out what they should stop doing that they're doing all day long. Because then you're in busyness and not doing anything with your business.
And you bring up something that I want to drill into, which is that, and in this show, we've got folks that are running businesses, we've got folks that are working in businesses. I know there are some folks listening to this who may actually be leading parts of very large enterprise businesses. And I know one of the things that you help people with is not just people who are already in business for themselves, but maybe be considering that.
Yes.
And I'd love to just dig in a little bit to that, because how do you find, or how do you go through that thought exercise of, okay, here I am in corporate, I have this job, but oh, I want something else, or that over there looks really attractive. Maybe I should be doing that over there. How do you help people process that if they haven't quite started the business yet?
Yeah, I call those folks wantrepreneurs who could also be intrapreneurs. And the difference is the wantrepreneur is the person who has a really great idea or a great product or a huge desire to get out of working for corporate America and doing their own thing. If you're waking up every day and dreaming of having your own business, you are probably on that precipice of, I need to stop working in corporate and go own my own thing, at least to scratch the itch, if nothing else. But I also think you should probably plan further than just the first 5 minutes of excitement, for sure. But there's also a lot of people that kind of think that way, or they think they're going to lose their job, or they feel like they've gotten stuck, like in neutral in their job, and that they're not appreciated and that they're not getting the promotions or the opportunities they want. And I try to help people look at those situations like, okay, if you don't have the risk tolerance to leave your job and go start a business, because it's not necessarily hard, but it's a lot. And there's a lot of mental energy that has to go into that. And there's a lot of physical energy that has to go into starting your own thing. You can also look at the job that you have as as a job that you own. Right. As I just tell people, don't go out and start a job for yourself as a business. But if you already have a job, then you can own that job like it is a business in a business. And you can create a new job for yourself as you start to see the opportunities and say, hey, like you were just saying, I would love to be going and doing this. Start edging toward that. Right. Volunteer for a project, suggest a project, make sure that your boss understands that it's valuable, etc. And then you can actually become an intrapreneur who owns a business within a business.
And what I'm hearing you say is that there's a dividing line between feeling at the mercy of your
Right.
job or your business and really taking back some of that power, taking back the power to say, okay, I have a job that I'm going to direct in a certain way, or I have a business that I've started, and maybe it isn't feeling as aligned to my values or what I had originally developed this to do. So I'm going to take control of that, as opposed to really falling into more of a kind of victim or helpless mentality. Am I hearing that right?
That's the exact right word too, because it's like you can either be a victim or a victor, right? And all of us fall into that victim trap. How often do we have something happen that is kind of, I just want to blame that other guy for that's happening. And when we start to take personal responsibility for how we're feeling and figuring out and getting curious about why it is we feel that way, because a lot of the healing work that I did, I was like, I spent so much time trying to blame other people for my own problems. And I literally would sit in the pity box all the time. And it feels good there too, because you feel self-righteous. Oh, the whole world's against me. But when you start to just decide, I'm not going to do that anymore, it's amazing the doors that will open up for you within your own perception, first and foremost. But then when you start to change, the people around you start to change. So, say, for example, you've got somebody at work that is just like the hardest person to work with, and you make the decision to say, you know what, I'm going to see the good about that person. I'm going to see that he's always grouchy. I'm just going to affirm that this guy's cheerful as heck and like he's so much fun to be around. And it's funny how it'll work. They will show you the better part of themselves when you start energetically asking for it, is really how that works.
And it's interesting too, because you mentioned even you have spent the time in the pity box. I like that idea. And it can be tempting to be there. But how do people get, right? So if someone's watching or listening to this, yeah, maybe in the pity box, like how can they take that step to move out of it? It's not, I'm guessing, an overnight miracle cure.
It is not an overnight miracle cure. It is really, first you have to make the decision. One, you have to notice it, right? It's like you have to acknowledge, okay, yeah, I think I probably spend more time pitying myself and being a victim than I really would like to. Okay, so there you are. Second step to that, and I just wrote about this in my newsletter last week, as a matter of fact, you have to say, I'm willing to do this differently. And the reason I suggest to people that they say, I am willing, and say it out loud, because sometimes things are hard to the point that we're like, oh, I don't know if I can overcome this at all. But when you say, I'm willing to do it, it's like a baby step in a way, but it has a really magical element to it. And it's because if you believe in a higher power, which most people do, and I don't know if you call that God, the universe, angels, whatever, if you say, I am willing, and as a human, you have free will, then you have just opened the door for help. And it's amazing when you start to do that, that things will start to show up for you. Now, you might find a book, you might find a class, you maybe get connected to a person who can help you. And all of a sudden, it just starts happening like magically, really. And then your job is to take advantage of those opportunities and do something about it. It's like you can't just sit in the realm of thinking and, ooh, look at all this great stuff that's coming my way. You got to actually embrace it and move forward. And developing that inner trust can be challenging, but I think there are a couple of things you can do. One is relaxation is an important part of good living. And I am going to be interviewing for Choice Wisdom next month a couple ladies that did a meditation study. So I meditate regularly every week now because I was part of their study, but now I'm like, I can't live without it because I have realized that relaxation is the point at which you can become much more creative and less stressed overall. But it's more about becoming open to new possibilities. And that's the beauty of relaxation. Another thing that people can do is to start to journal. When people talk about journaling, and I had a lady ask me when she goes, "What is journaling exactly?" And I said, I would set a timer on your phone and do it first thing in the morning and start to write down whatever comes into your mind. And even if you just sit there and doodle for 20 minutes and actually don't actually write something, at least just start the exercise, make yourself do it. And she told me a couple weeks later, she's, "Oh my gosh, things just started pouring out of me. I had no idea." But it's like it helps it get out of your head. And there's a book called The Artist's Way,
Mhm.
and in that book, she recommends the same thing. She calls them morning pages. And she says, write at least 3 pages every morning because it gets all the gunk out of your head or like the fragments of dreams and just stuff that's in there. And it opens the door to possibility and leaves everything wide open for other stuff to come in. And it's amazing what you'll start to notice. You're like, oh, wow, I never even noticed that this was even a potential for me.
So funny. I love The Artist Way. That's one of my favorite books. And if anyone listens to this show, they know that I love all things geeky brain science and neuromarketing and neuroscience. But it's funny. It reminds me a little bit of, I don't know if you've ever listened to Darren Brown's Brain Boot Camp on Audible, but
Ooh,
he talks
no.
about how there are these things that could be decades old, right? That something that Billy Joe Bob said to you in third grade got stuck in there somewhere. And yet it is still part of your programming. It's still part of why you do certain things, why you react in certain ways, preconceived notions of the way that you think about yourself or your role or your job. And so I think that's so important that you bring up that whether it's the morning pages practice or journaling practice or right meditation, but there have to be some spaces that you're holding to get the stuff out of the way because otherwise
Yep.
there's no room, there's no space, there's no quiet time to actually hear anything else, right? You're just layering upon layering.
And that's why I do it first thing in the morning.
Mhm.
And I know in the Artist Way, she recommends doing it first thing in the morning. Now, there are some people that are just not first thing in the morning people. My husband is one of those. He stays up till 2 o'clock in the morning. It's the craziest thing, but he gets his me time at like midnight. Whenever that time is for you, take advantage of it and just don't sit and doom scroll. I've decided that the iPhone is the greatest and worst invention of all time because it's like as soon as we get a couple of free minutes, what are we doing? We're picking up our phone. What if we took that couple of 3 minutes to just sit quietly and do nothing? That seems like a crazy idea, but it's an amazing, it's like a reset, and it doesn't even have to be more than 3 to 5 minutes. Just stop doing stuff for a minute.
And it's
Go
such a
take a walk.
good point. Just can you, it's a good test. So that I'm going to give everyone here listening and watching this. I want you to take a test. I want you to take what Gail's saying. I want you to really ask yourself, could you sit for 2 minutes without doing anything, without looking at the phone?
It will
And
be
how
really
compelled do you
hard.
feel to pick up that?
Yeah, because it'll be sitting right there. It'll be like, oh, you know what? I could just check my email or I could play Wordle or what. Oh my gosh. I stopped playing the New York Times games because my husband kind of got me hooked on them.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was wasting a ridiculous amount of my time. And I even put a timer on it. And I can't tell you how many times I would blink that timer off. Like I'd be 15 more minutes, 15 more minutes. I'm 45 minutes in.
Yeah.
And I've wasted a tremendous amount of time. So I just took the app off my phone. I can't be trusted with it anymore. But
Yeah. No,
but
I
do
had
what
a
you
funny
got to do.
conversation with my kiddos about this because now that I'm a lacrosse mom, I have to do all sorts of long drives to tournaments in other states, and they've got their devices. And so we've made a family rule that for most of the drive, no devices because they were shocked and appalled when I explained to them that in the early 90s and the late 80s, if we were in the car, we just had to look out the window. That
Or
was
play the
what we
license plate game or
play the license plate game. I love
that
it.
was about all you had.
Exactly, exactly. But I think that getting back to the business owner idea, the entrepreneur idea, or the intrapreneur idea, that we still also have to hold the space. We have to create the space so that we can hear our own thoughts. Otherwise, we're just
Yeah.
constantly numbing and quieting and pushing it till later, and then later never comes.
Yeah,
So,
because you've got your ego and you've got your divine soul self, and you can't hear that inner wisdom within you
yeah,
if you're constantly busy.
Yeah.
and you're constantly doing. And it could be even just a walk in nature. I love to take my dogs for a walk in the morning. And for a while, I would listen to audiobooks and stuff, but a lot of times I don't. I like walk down the street and listen to the birds twitter. I hug trees, literally, just because they're amazing and trees are awesome. But I love to go walk in nature, and that's probably one of the most fulfilling and wonderful things I can do. And fortunately, I live in a great neighborhood. My office is in a fairly neighborhoody kind of place, so there's trees, there's grass. I can get out and do that anytime. But it's a huge benefit. Nature.
Related question I had was, earlier you mentioned the origin story, right? The origin story for your business, your personal origin story. What would you say is the difference, or how would you describe or help people think about the difference between that origin story for the business versus the individual's aim in life, or the individual entrepreneur's origin story or aim in life? How would you help people pull those apart? Because I know that there can be that temptation to make your business your identity, but I'm hearing
Yep.
that may not be the healthiest way to go about
Yeah, I would say that most people they have a purpose, right? And we did this back in what, the 90s, early 2000s. And I think people even started getting purpose anxiety. So what is my purpose? And when you start to do these, you create those spaces where you can be quiet with yourself, you journal, and you start listening to that voice within you. That's the value in the world that you're trying to create as a human being. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all wrapped up in your business, because the business lives outside of you and it actually is its own thing. It's not you. So your origin story is really more about how you got started by getting fired or deciding you were going to go buy a franchise or whatever it was you're going to do. But your primary aim is what you're trying to accomplish in this life. It's like that. In the guy who wrote the book, E-Myth Revisited, his name is Michael Gerber. So if you've ever looked into franchising, which my husband and I did last year to buy him a business, which we now are both running, but that's another whole story. I read through that book and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like brilliant, because he talks more about working on your business, not in it. But he also, I think he even uses that term, primary aim. What is your goal in life? And what do you see yourself doing 5, 10, 15 years from now? Outside of your business, not working all the time, what are you creating for yourself? And what value are you giving back to the world through that? And for a lot of people, that winds up being their business as part of that too. Because if you're a soul led business, then you're doing some sort of business that supports that value. But you don't necessarily have to.
I think that's really interesting because then, like you said, so if you're running a soul-led business or even putting your soul into a job, right? If you're an entrepreneur or entrepreneur, it can be connected to the impact you want to make, but it can be separate, right? You could have a business that does other things for you, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a purpose-driven business or impact the kind of passion-based business that a lot of
Right.
people, I think, right? I was talking to someone recently that she self-describes herself as running a boring business, right? So she runs laundromats. I
It's a
run
boring
a
business, but
business to help
a
people clean their
necessary one.
underwear, right?
Yeah.
she's,
Everybody needs
she's like,
toilet wear.
accept
So,
what I do. But I didn't do that because I think laundromats are going to change people's lives. But I do it because running laundromats will change my life. And I think
yes,
that was
great way
a
of saying it.
really interesting way to put it, was because I think often I hear from people that they started a business because they really wanted to create impact in people's lives. And the way that she runs her business, she can still do that, even with a boring business.
Yeah.
But I think you bring up a really important point, which is that yes, you can still be in service of others, but also without being selfish, be in service of your own goals.
Exactly. And I think marketing people struggle with that a lot, because I work a lot with solopreneurs, and that's why those are the people that have the hardest time
Yeah,
separating their business from themselves, because they're doing something that they love doing
yeah,
or they're good at, providing a value and a service to people that they feel passionate about.
yeah.
But if you're really super passionate about your business too, that's when it can actually start to take you over, unless you just accept that it's my purpose in life is to do this work. Like I love it. Like people work for nonprofits. But you have to be very careful to continue to put those boundaries, though, that there is a business and there is you. Because if the two get all intertwined, the business is always going to win.
Yeah. Well, before I went to business school at Yale, I actually worked at a nonprofit up in Boston. And because it was such a high paying job, I also worked at a liquor store. So I was feeling very fulfilled, but we also have to sometimes ask practical questions, right? So it is that balance between the two.
Yeah. And I think as you start to age out of the passion part and you start to get a little bit more practical and pragmatic about what it is you want from your life. So if you're really like my husband and I, for example, when our daughter does leave us, eventually go to college and has a life of her own, it's just going to be him and me looking at each other. And we were talking about this the other night. We're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with all of our free time when we're not taking care of moms and taking care of kid and
Yeah.
all these other things. So I was like, I think I really want to travel more. And we both want to live in a different state. So that's gets on our bucket list. So every decision that we make in either of our businesses is to fulfill that future goal. And that kind of keeps you from getting too sucked into the crazy that goes on in business every day because it's like, all right, I see the goal ahead. And so I need to back out from that goal, the goals for my business, and then make sure that it achieves the idea of supporting me as a human being.
And I know that's one of the things that you help your clients with is making sure that they have someone outside their own head, self-talk to actually help them do that. But let me ask you this. What is one of the favorite things about what you do? Your favorite things?
My favorite thing is that I get to listen to other people's stories. And that's what I love so much because, like, I do a 2 hour coaching session for free. That's like how I lead into a coaching engagement. And I was actually speaking to a guy the other day. It was funny. He accidentally called me. His appointment setters set an appointment with me, and I was not his target market. I don't know how I wound up on his calendar. And he said, I'm not sure how you did either, but he goes, I see you're a coach. So he asked me some questions about that. And then he said, I'm thinking I might need one. And I said, I do a 2 hour coaching session. I said, the reason I do that is because a discovery call for 30 minutes is a sales call. And I don't try to sell anybody on coaching. I'm so passionate about helping other people that I just want to give people valuable time with another person that they can talk to who's going to ask great questions and help them get to an answer that they're trying to get to. And that's the thing about coaching, right? And he and I even had this conversation because he said, I feel like at my age, I don't need a coach per se, but maybe I do. And I said, I think people think that coaches are teachers, which they
Mm.
are not. We are to a degree, but I think the value of a coach is having somebody who is an empathetic soul who cares about you as a person and wants to listen and listen with wide open ears for the things you're going to say, where I can say, okay, tell me more about that. Or have you tried maybe going down that path? Or that sounds like it might be important to you. You've mentioned it a couple of times. Let's discuss that more. Because a lot of times we get in our own way and we get all up in our own head. And without somebody else to come along and kind of see what's going on there and ask the right question, we may never see it. You get too close to stuff, and that's what coaches do.
And it's interesting because I think that ties back to what we were talking about before about the morning pages of the journaling or the just taking a moment without some sort of stimulation or distraction. And I'd say, tell me if you agree, that if someone is having trouble with those doing those things for themselves, that might be a signal they need a coach. So
Yeah,
someone
that's
else
an
hold that space
interesting
for you.
point. Yeah, if you're really struggling, or so much is pouring out that you're kind of like, okay, now I've got 40 pages worth of just stuff. I'm not even sure what to do with all of this.
Yes.
Sometimes just talking out loud and having the space to do that, and someone who's got the patience and the time and who's willing to commit. I say energetically. I know that sounds crazy, but we're all just energy, and you can feel other people's energy. You can feel if they're paying attention to you. You can feel if they care about you. And having an empathetic other person help you sort all that out is just phenomenal. I have my own coaches, and the coaches I work with do that for me. And I value them tremendously. It's like I will be working with them probably for years just
Yeah,
because they really help me pull things out that I can't see.
I love that. Yeah, I would say in my own experience too that the people who've been my best coaches, head coaches themselves,
Yeah.
because they need to be their best self in order to be of service to me.
Yeah. And you are your best self when you've got people to support you. And one of the things that I like to do most is peer groups. And the reason is, and a lot of people go, oh, peer groups, bleh, or masterminds, I guess you can call them that too. But it's groups of people. And this is why my company is called Co-Equal. Co-Equals are people that have the same affinity or rank and importance, but they're connected by something that connects them other than just their business. It's like there's something, they're in the same industry or there's the same job title or all CEOs or whatever. But the beauty beauty of a peer group is that my job is to create the energetic container that everybody fits into, and then they actually co-create the experience. So I can facilitate, I can ask questions, I can guide conversations, but it's amazing what comes out of a group. It's one-on-one coaching is wonderful, especially when you're working on something very specific. But if you're really wanting to level up, I highly recommend getting into a group of your co-equals. Go find that tribe that speaks to you and become part of it, because that's where people really start to take off, personally and professionally.
I think it's a really good point. Absolutely great point.
You ran a group for me, so that's why I'm going to go give you a
Yes.
shout out, because you were a coach of mine. And yeah, that group was great.
And I agree. It's one of those things as a coach, I really enjoy one-on-one coaching, but there's something almost magical that happens in the chemistry of a small group. And even if I'm the facilitator or leader, I learn things, right? I have a better experience because everyone is bringing their own area of expertise in, their own unique experience. So I definitely love having group containers, like you were saying.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, Gail, let's give people an assignment. If you are going to say to the folks listening and watching us today who sparked to something that you shared, whether it was needing to create space so that they could actually hear their own words to themselves, or taking that action to actually maybe explore working with a coach or getting more aligned with their business. Maybe it was someone who's still in a job and thinking about getting into being more of an entrepreneur, taking that ownership back, that power back. If you were going to give people one sticky note writer downer to take away with them today, what would you invite people to do to get into action today, this week?
Okay, the thing you need to write on your sticky note is 3 deep breaths. I'm going to explain what that means. So, all of us go throughout the day almost on autopilot. Even those who spend a lot of time like meditating and yogaing and all that sort of stuff, we all get tied up in whatever it is that's going on. My best piece of advice to people is to find 2 to 3 spots in the day. Sometimes it's first thing in the morning, last thing at night. Maybe you might think about it at lunchtime, but to sit quietly and take 3 really deep breaths. Pull it down to your toes. Slow down enough to do just that. And I guarantee you, if you will do 3 deep breaths, you'll probably do 3 more, because it feels so doggone good to let your spine relax and everything relax. And that's where relaxation comes in. And I find, especially if I've hit a thorny problem, I think Thomas Edison, I think when he was doing all of his work, his wife talked about how he would hit the wall on something and then he would go take a nap for 20 minutes and come back to it. And then he'd have all these great ideas. And that explains also, too, why your sparks of inspiration will come while you're driving down the road on the way to work or in the shower or walking the dog or whatever. It's because you're not doing the thing that you were doing. You got to get away from it for a minute. And 3 deep breaths is one really easy way. And it's something everybody can do. And it doesn't take hardly any time at all. We're talking less than a minute for most, maybe 2, if you really slow it down.
No, I
But
like
yep.
that. Just taking the pause, the 3 deep breaths. Maybe not as long as the Thomas Edison nap, but I'm all for
Yeah,
nap
maybe you can't
science.
take a nap, but I don't know
Yeah.
that I can't nap during the day myself. I don't know. I guess it worked for him, but I don't think that would work for me. But I'll go take a walk for 20 minutes. That helps.
No, definitely. All right, but
Yep.
at least they can start with the 3 deep breaths. So if you're listening to this, 3 deep breaths, start there and then let us know how it goes for you.
Yep.
Thank you, Gail. I know there are going to be people who want to follow up with you, get in touch. What is the best way to connect with you online?
Okay, so a couple of different ways you can follow Choice Wisdom. It's my podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, all over the place. So you can find me there. And then my website is coequalnetwork.com.
Fantastic. And wherever you're watching or listening to this, we will have Gail's links there. So please definitely go reach out. Let her know what you found, what you heard during your 3 deep breaths. Let us know what happened. So thank you,
I
Gail,
would
so
love
much
to
for
hear that.
coming and joining us today. I really appreciated you sharing your wisdom with us here.
Thank you. I enjoyed being on.
Fantastic. And thank you guys for listening and watching. We will see you on the next episode of Sticky Note Marketing.